morning, everyone. It's Monday and it's August 3rd, and I pray that this is a great Monday and a beginning of an amazing week of walking with Jesus. And we're continuing our readings from 1 Corinthians, and today we look at the first half of chapter 14. And last Friday we talked about spiritual gifts, and if you remember in chapter 12, a spiritual gift is something given to everyone who is a follower of Jesus, and God gives it to us so we'll have tools to use to do what he wants us to do. And the Corinthian church needed to be reminded about the purpose of spiritual gifts, and they need to be reminded that they were to benefit others and to help them love others more effectively. And then Paul used chapter 13, the famous love chapter, to remind them that any gift that was exercised without love is actually harmful. In fact, any self-serving gift is better left undone. And so now Paul continues in chapter 14, and he wants to further address this issue. And he starts out in verse 1 with very familiar words. He says, "Let love be your highest goal." Let love be your highest goal. In Corinth, it seemed that people had forgotten the benefit others part. And he writes to them that the way that they're exercising this one spiritual gift called speaking in tongues. Now, as we understand it, speaking in tongues, it was a gift of speaking a message from God, or even speaking a message to God in worship in a language that was not known by that person, not known by anybody, maybe in the crowd. According to this chapter, if a person speaks in another language in a worship service without an interpreter, then only God could understand and no one else would benefit. And Paul encourages the people that the gift of prophecy, which was speaking a message from God in their own language, is far more effective than a message in an unknown tongue without an interpreter. Now, all this stuff about tongues and prophecy, why is Paul making such a big deal about this? Well, I think it actually just goes back to the very simple message in verse 1. Let love be always your highest goal. I think Paul is teaching us and using the Corinthians as an example of people who are serving without love being the highest goal. And he calls us to the attitude that Jesus modeled. Remember, Jesus was God, and yet he humbled himself. And we remember how he even washed his disciples' feet on the night before he was going to go to the cross to do the most important job, to pay the sins of the world, to die on the cross. Just listen to his words as we read from that particular night. He said in verse 13 of chapter 13 of John, he says, "You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, because that's what I am. And since I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to go wash each other's feet. I have given you an example to follow. Do as I have done to you." And he says, "So now I am giving you a new commandment, love each other. Just as I have loved you, you should love each other. Your love for one another will prove to the world that you are my disciples." So go and love the world and live like Jesus taught us.
If these devotional videos are helpful to you, subscribe to our channel and click the notification button so you know when we post a new video. And of course, please share them with others.